heard enough of those, but I remember when after I got my first, yes, Darryl. This is the 160 meter contest. And so we're talking a 6,000 mile contact on 160 meters. It doesn't mean you have to have a spectacular station to do this. I remember when I first went into the ham radio club at the Utah Valley Community College just after I got my license. There was a bunch of QSL cards that were hanging on the wall. One of them was a JT call. I don't remember the entire call, but we got up close to it, looked at it. That thing came from Mongolia. I mean, what would it be like to talk to someone in Mongolia and be able to know what your voice coming out of a radio at the far side is something amazing. And this is one of my favorites right here. Of course this is my favorite.
6 David X-ray, listening up 3. Whiskey 7 something whiskey, Whiskey 7 something whiskey, 59 VP6D. Okay, is it Hotel Echo, Whiskey 7 Hotel Whiskey, or Echo? Okay, Hotel Papa Whiskey, thank you. W7HPW in Utah. Thank you, W7HPW, you're in the log. Yours and...
You know, and for those of you who think, okay, well, yeah, he's got this massive station. For those of you who know me, he's got this huge station and one like that. Remember, I have to tell you that this contact was made with 100 watts on a dipole antenna on 160 meters. You don't need a spectacular station to make these kinds of contacts. It's just more of just getting on the air and being in the right place at the right time more than anything else for us. Sure, there is some skill levels that are involved there. I could hear Milt down on Ducey Island clearly. It was easy for me to hear him. He was having a tough time, I think, hearing a lot of the calls that were coming down there, especially little pipsqueak calls like what I was putting out at the time. And so, I want to impress on you that part of this, the fun of doing this, is not being the first one in a pileup to give a call in there and a big pileup of stations calling a rare DX station and being the first one he calls back to, although there is some satisfaction associated with that. It is not, the most fun is just being able to do it. In fact, there is a distinct challenge for the handicapped stations to make these kinds of contacts for it. It's puts forth a great deal of practice on your end and skill sets on the far end that you can truly become proficient at doing these kinds of transmissions and communication events. But, yes?
Do you use any sort of DSP?
You know, at first you will probably found, your question was, repeat the question, do you use any kind of digital signal processing on it? And for the uninitiated, you will find that that is helpful. I have found that after 10 years or 20 years of doing this now, that it is less helpful for me. It's actually easier for me to listen to the noise at the same time, so that use my brain to filter it out. And all of you will figure that out, that your brain is better at doing this than any piece of software that's been invented so far. That may not be true always, but that's the way it is right now. But at first, it might actually be very helpful for you until you get practice at it. Yes, Bob?
How much time will you devote to try and contact one of these players?
For that one, it was kind of special. I knew that the DXpedition was going to be down there. I had no equipment set up for 160 meters at all. And so the amount of time that was dedicated for it was, 1, to put up an antenna, 2, to find out, look at the propagation charts and stuff like that, figure out when was going to be the best time to get to him, and then be on the air at that time for it. And so this took about 2 days to put this contact together. Darren and I did this one together. I called him and said, let's get Ducey Island on 160. He said, and I said, you got an antenna up? And he said, yes. And so we brought an antenna up, we hung it up, and that evening we both made contacts to Ducey Island on 160 on both phone and CW.
But it was a wire antenna, wasn't it?
It was just a wire antenna. There's nothing special. Just a a full-size inverted V hanging off the edge of the tower at 60 feet or so. Where the ends were almost hitting the ground in that particular point. Yes?
How much attention to azimuth did you usually put up?
None. It would where it would fit right at the present time. So put the antenna up. I mean, I live on 5 acres, so I have the space, but I couldn't put it anywhere. But there were still some constraints as to where we could stake the antenna down and stuff like that. So you still had to be a little bit cautious with it. And the next day, the cows out in the pasture tore it down anyway. So it was like.
Explain the protocol used in making contact and all that stuff.
Yep, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
I got some slides on it because there are some protocols that are involved in this work. But there's a lot of things you can do on HF. A lot of things that you can do. And just some of them are like a worked all condiments. You know, incidentally, I've never actually applied for a worked all condiments award, even though I certainly can't qualify for it now, since I'm now at 322 countries worked, 321 confirmed for it. So, but there is lots of things that you can do. One of those, for the first time, when you first get on the air and start working on some things, is to go after this one. This is your Worked All States Award. In other words, it's a contact, a confirmed contact in all 50 states for it. It was interesting, when I started working on this one, I had my first DXCC, my first 100 countries before I got that one. And I had a tough time getting some states confirmed. Anybody guess what they were? Idaho, Colorado, next door, you know. I would have expected, you know, North Dakota or Rhode Island or something like that, you know, tough, but no, those are easy. The ones that are closer are the tough guys to do. So that's one of the awards that you can go after. One of the other awards that you can go after is of course, the Premier Award for DXE. And that's this one here. This is your DXCC Century Club Award for it. So you'll get a mixed award first. And in the light. Yeah, everybody can see it now. And of course, I'll put these up and test so everybody can take a look at them afterwards. But so this is for your first 100 countries, and then there's endorsements on it for each 50 past that. Then past 250 they go by 25s, then past 300 they go by 5s. You'll notice that my 320 sticker is missing up here, because I didn't qualify for my 320 sticker until last week. So it hasn't come yet. And that was actually the DXpedition that was just finished up down on Cocos Keeling Island. Everybody knows where Cocos Keeling Island is at. There's a few hands. Those of you that went out there working for them. Cocos Keeling Island is in the Indian Ocean. It's a possession of Australia. It's like 600, 700 miles off their coast out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I went and looked it up on the internet. It's a gorgeous place. I thought, you know what? That'd be a great place just to go vacation. But tropical paradise for it. But interestingly enough, for Cocos Keeling, I was not able to communicate with them on any of the short paths. So the times that I could hear them, actually make a contact, always were the long path. And so I was not pointing the antenna to the northwest, where you would expect to find it, to the 9,300 mile path to it. I actually pointed it out over the Caribbean, went down over the South Pole, and came up around the bottom side for a 15,400 mile contact. All of the contacts I made in Cocos Keeling were that way. And so there's lots of other things you can work for too. Past your first DXCC, there are awards for modes, bands, like these DXCC certificates. I have one for 80 through 10, minus 30 meters. I'm still working on that one. and a bunch of others too. Question over here, yes?
What type of confirmation do they still, I mean, what types do they accept? Is it just USO birds or is it?
We're going to get to that, so hold that thought. We're going to talk exactly about that. Then your next big award that you're all going to work for is this one here. This is a 5-band DXCC. That means you're going to work 100 countries on the 5 major HF bands, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. And so you get confirmations for each one of those. Once you get this one, then there is a nice little plaque that goes with it as well, too, which is something that you all should go after. Then there's separate endorsements for each of the bands past that. So I actually have the 5-band plus 17 and 12 meters that I've achieved on this one here too. I remember when I first saw this plaque, I said, you know what? I was just interested in working HF, but when I saw this plaque, I said, you know what? This is something to stretch for and work towards, and something that I just had to have. But something you can definitely work for. There's other kinds of awards that are associated with it as well too. This is one that actually fairly difficult to get. This is from the CQ magazine, folks. This is called a Worked All Zones Award. Remember, you know what a CQ zone is? There's 40 of them around the world. They're geographically spaced around the world. Some of the zones are very hard to get. Find anybody that has a radio in that zone. But that's actually a fun one. There's one that passed this called 5-band Worked All Zones. Yeah, I haven't got there yet.
Yes.